Well, you can tell one thing about it. It's getting a little bit chilly out there. We're talking mid-50s for the week. Hey, it's October, almost November. Good morning, everybody. It's Weber this week on October 20th, 2014. Today, a couple of special guests, and they got police uniforms on. And yes, I know many of you are hoping they're going to take me away. That could happen at the end of the show. Good morning, everybody. We bring in you live, and we certainly are welcoming you to our show this morning on a chilly Monday morning, but it's supposed to be somewhat decent, and the rain's supposed to be arriving later today. It's good to have you alongside. We've got lots to talk about, and without further ado, it's good to have our special guest in. Never met the gentleman until today personally, but Stu Peenstra, the Chief of Police of the town of Seneca Falls. Stu, thank you for coming in.
Oh, you're welcome.
And along a gentleman I've known for several years, Sergeant Tim Snyder. Tim, thank you for coming in as well.
Thanks for having us.
Well, gentlemen, let's get right to it. A lot going on. And Stu, let's first off, for our viewers that may not know you personally, and again, it's the first time I've met you personally this morning in the studio, talk a little bit about your background, where you were born, and when you took over in Seneca Falls. So give our viewers a little understanding of what's going on there.
Absolutely. I was born in Syracuse.
Okay.
I am 42 years old. I took over as the chief of police here 2.5 years ago. So I was about 39. I met my wife in college. I went to Marcellus High School. Met my wife in college. Attended SUNY Canton for 2 years. Then 2 years to Potsdam for my bachelor's degree. Met my wife there. She got a teaching job here in Seneca Falls, and started pursuing a law enforcement career here in Seneca Falls. And Chief Capozzi hired me part-time as a part-time police officer in '98. And about a year and a half or so after that, I was hired full-time, and been working here for 15, 16 years since. So worked my way up through the ranks from part-time now to chief.
That's great. And Tim, for our viewers that may not know you like I do, give us a little background on yourself.
I am originally from the Savannah area. As a small child, I moved over to Seneca Falls when my father worked out to the Army Depot. Attended Minders, graduated with Jimmy actually back in '90, and attended Herkimer and started with Seneca Falls PD in 2000.
Okay. Well, Stu, let's talk a little bit about, before we get to the accreditation prospect of the segment of the show, which is very important to us and important to you, gentlemen, because it's something that's only been done 20% of the time in New York State. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but when you came to town and took over, Stu, certainly you were involved in a dissolution of dissolving a village, turning it into a town. A lot of speculation, a lot of controversy, a lot of concerns about the residency relative to the coverage that may or may not take place, enhancement when we became a town. A lot of talk about that back then. Were you concerned about that, and what is your take on it thus since we've been a town? It seems like I've only had to call you a couple of times for various issues which are minor, and boom, you guys are there, our ladies are there to handle the situation. Give us a view of were you concerned about covering the area? I know that was a big talking point. What is your feeling about it since it took over from being a town?
It was definitely a challenge for all of us in the police department. We weren't really sure exactly how it was going to work out. We went from, I believe it was 4.6 square miles to almost 28 square miles with the town. It's been a challenge. We've all had to really work much harder at our job and just do things just that much better. But you know, so far we've been doing a pretty good job at it, I believe. Could always do better.
Yeah.
The coverage that we provide is a little thinner, I think, than what the village we used to do in the village. But you know, that's because we have that much more territory to cover with basically the same amount of people that we had before.
Yeah, and again, from what I hear at the coffee shops and the local bars, to have wings and a couple of beers is the fact that most people are very satisfied, and it's not a controversial point that I would hear, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, we've worked really hard at it. Everybody in the police department has worked really hard at just doing a better job. We were always a really good police department. I really felt that way, that we all knew exactly how to do our jobs and we're doing it well. We just had to, you know, show everybody and buckle down and just really work that much harder, and we're still doing it. It's it's a lot of work here to cover this town with the staffing that we have.
Tim, you would echo those sentiments too?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk and not get into specifics about the Indian issues. Certainly, you're not part of Seneca Falls, whether or not you're in this area, not knowing every day you pick up the paper and there's disagreements between various factions of the Indian group. Not to get into too many specifics, but I'm speculating that it's taken your force, a continuation with other police agencies involved, and I hope maybe you do too, that someday we may resolve the issues and move on without having to take your resources to different places to try to settle the issues that pop up seems like every other day around here.
Yeah, I can only hope so. I don't foresee that anytime soon. We've been working very hard at trying to control situations down there, some of which that people don't even see.
Right.
For every person that says, why are we down there doing these things and helping
Sure.
them out when they don't pay their taxes
Right.
or things like that, there's 10 other people telling me, what's going on down there? Why aren't we doing things down there? They are not a reservation, and we are in charge of public safety with the town, and to ensure everybody's safety, we have to be involved in these situations. Things like martial law or something
Right.
like that doesn't take place down there. And so far, we've been pretty successful.
And I guess if the police department, your department that you're the chief of, overseeing it, along with the sheriffs, along with the state troopers, if they just never showed up, there'd be all kinds of issues.
There would be some major issues down there, absolutely. Then we've had a lot of help from a lot of different agencies, state police,
Sure.
Seneca County Sheriff's Department, Bureau of Indian Affairs, FBI, ATF. We've had Attorney General's office at meetings. We've had everybody at the table at one given point in time, trying to address this and make sure that everything's peaceful there.
And I guess that's the name of the game, peaceful, right, Tim?
Correct.
Keep it peaceful.
Correct.
Stu Peenstra, along with Tim Snyder, our special guest this morning, and we want to remind everybody coming up and give you an idea of what we have planned the next few weeks before we get back to Tim and to Stu regarding the accreditation aspect of the show. Reminder, next week we got Gary Schlegel. We're going to talk to Stu about the casino, the Lago Casino. A lot of people think it's a slam dunk that we're going to get the license here in Tyre, New York. It's hard for me to fathom little old sleepy Tyre. I just can't fathom going across that bridge and seeing a casino, but hey, you never know. I guess it's going to maybe happen, maybe not. Keep in mind there is the Johnson City and also the Tioga Downs that are in the hunt here. I hear now that may not make the decision until after the elections, which is a couple weeks away. I don't know that. That could happen any day.
They're going to wait till after the elections.
They are going to wait.
Doug. Yeah,
I think you might
I
be
can
right.
almost guarantee that.
Well, let's talk about the Lago Casino, Stu, and of course Chief Police Stu Peenstra, along with Tim Snyder, our special guest this morning on Weber this week. Certainly, what impact, if any, would that have on you? Certainly, if a casino gets built, I don't know how they come up with, Tim and Stu, how they come up with the projected 9,000 additional visitors per day, but that's what they say. I don't know how they come up with that number.
Well, that's not necessarily in the
idea.
town of Seneca Falls, but
True.
obviously there will be
It's gonna
issues
be in the
that
area.
you'll have to deal with.
I'm guessing that's another headache you would have, let alone the fact that a casino would be built in Tyre, which is a stone's throw away from us sitting here. That's got to be a little bit of a concern, too.
Absolutely. There's going to be some sort of impact in the
Sure.
town of Seneca Falls. There has to be. I mean,
Right.
the majority of the population in Seneca County is Seneca Falls,
Yep.
or the larger portion thereof. And if there's a casino that's built a stone's throw outside of the town, there's going to be some sort of ripple effect
Sure.
into the town. And I don't know what that's going to be yet.
I believe it would bring a lot of people into Seneca Falls if there's an overflow at the casino
Yep.
for any big venues or anything like that. Seneca Falls has got a lot of hotels and motels that will absolutely fill up.
And, we're not talking outside the box here. Certainly a casino brings, a lot of money into play, a lot of economic benefits. But without making this sound like a CSI show, there's an element of problems, too, that would appear with a casino. Because, as we all know, people walk out of casinos with lots of money if they win. And that's an element of possible, issues. Anytime you have that element, where
Well,
there's
there's
lots of money.
also the issue of, the residents that might lose money up there, and
Bingo.
then they get desperate.
Yeah, so
And
I mean,
so they
Yeah.
do things that they normally might not do.
that's an element. So the Lago Casino, again, Gary Schlegel will be our guest next week on the show. He'll be on the couch. The owner of the McGee Diner, which is, by the way, is always busy. And but he thinks it's a great thing because he knows that he can pick up additional business. I wouldn't be surprised if Gary has plans, if that happens, to maybe enlarge that place out there, even though, it's a nice place and food is good and the prices are reasonable. So he'll be here next week. And I think it'd be interesting. Personally, I had worked at the Thruway as a part-time collector. I left in May. But I was kidding somebody, Stu and Tim, about my role at Exit 41 on the Thruway in Waterloo. I'm thinking there are, from May through September, 40% of the state of New York only have Easy Pass, only 40, which surprised me. 60% think Big Brother overseeing them, don't want them. I look out, and when I was working at 41 as a collector, I looked out when the weather was nice, and especially in the summertime, as far as you could see, there were cars coming off to 41. And we only had 2 booths to collect money. And we'd have people getting so upset when they got to the booth to pay because they had to be delayed. No problem of ours. We can only take them one at a time.
Right.
And most people don't have the right change. And as you know,
Yeah.
some people don't have any money on them. I think it's free. But my point is, I can't fathom. I don't know what they're going to do from a structural standpoint, how they're going to do this. I guess maybe they can do something with that land to the left as you look at 41. Maybe double the size of that exit, or maybe make another exit. I just can't, in my own weird mind, how you're gonna deal with all those people coming off the Thruway. They must have some plans for that. I don't know.
I would say that something would have to
They
be
got to have something.
They're going to have to hire you back.
Well, I mean, that would be a smart move on their part. And the only reason I left, Stu, is because it got interrupted in my golf game. There are priorities in my life. I got the 7 to 3 shift or the noon to 8. Either one of those shifts don't complement a golf game. But it's going to be interesting. So we're talking to Chief of Town of Seneca Falls, Chief of Police Stu Peenstra, along with Tim Snyder. And we're going to take our commercial break. When we come back, we're here really to talk about one major topic, and that is the phenomenal accreditation that the Town of Seneca Falls Police Department, only 20% have achieved that, and these gentlemen and their team have gotten it done. We'll talk about the thrill of having that done after we hear from the great sponsors that make this show possible. Eagle Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquor, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises, your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Bob and Leslie Ullman, owners of the Ullman Theater in Lyons, as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, Waterloo, best mott sticks around, where you can enjoy a drink and some laughs. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com, awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Home of the toughest par 4 in central New York. Wilson Press, wpress.com. Seneca Falls, Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Rich Ricky, Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. Welcome back, everybody. It's the Dog with you with another edition of Weber This Week on a chilly Monday morning, the 20th of October, 2014. Hard to believe Thanksgiving's coming up. Oh, what are we talking, a month, 6 weeks away? Stu Peenstra, the Chief of Police of the Town of Seneca Falls, along with Tim Snyder, are my special guests this morning. And we're going to pose this to the Chief, the accreditation, I believe I'm doing this correctly, the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services, the DCJS accreditation. Stu, talk about when you decided to pursue it, and you gave Tim the lead role as far as overseeing the project. Give us a little background of what took place.
Okay. It's something I was actually looking at early on while Chief Capozzi was still as the chief. And as we dissolved and I took over, I knew that that was something that I felt the department needed to do to move forward. So we started that. Tim and I started looking into that and actually applied for the process just a month into taking over as the town. Shortly after that, we were working on it, but it was probably 3 months or so, 4 months into taking over as a town, because we had so many other things going on before we actually really jumped into it and started working hard on it. But we applied for the process a month, I would say, into 2012.
All right, Tim, talk about you were asked to oversee it, put together a team. Give our viewers an explanation of what that entailed.
It started off with the application process of the chief sending the application to DCJS after board approval. After that, it was visiting other police departments, Webster PD, Brighton PD, talking to the undersheriff of Seneca County, Gary Sullivan. It entailed a lot of conversation, a lot of visits, looking over everybody's files, seeing how they were set up. The state has 133 standards that you have to abide by to start off with. With us, it was a brand new process, so it was long and.
It's almost like going through a checklist and saying, "Okay, we got that covered. We got the end of the next one."
Basically,
Yeah.
it's you go onto the website and on DCJS, and they've got all 133 standards sitting right there. You print off each standard, staple it to a folder, and start right from there.
Wow. Now, talk a bit about the team that you were working with as far as can you mention some of the names that helped to do this? Or is it the entire force?
The whole department worked
department.
on this together. Absolutely,
Okay.
I would. The chief put me as lead on it. What I would do is when I had training sessions or firearms or anything like that, I would send out emails to the appropriate officers to gather that information for me, on top of redesigning some of the reports that we were doing to keep the stats and figure out what needed to go in what folder from that point on.
Well, it's pretty impressive, and Stu, certainly 20% of the police departments, only 20% of the police departments in New York State have it. I would think, Stu, it must mean that other police chiefs feel that it's so burdensome they don't want to try to do it, I would guess.
Well, one chief at one point put it this way to me, and I think it really made things real simple for me. It said, you wouldn't go to a doctor that wasn't board certified. So why would you have a police department responding to your residents that wasn't accredited by New York State? Like I said before, we always knew we had a good police department, but I really felt that we needed a way of showing that, and the accreditation process has made us better, much better, and it's something that they don't just hand out.
No.
Hard at it. We had a lot going on at that time as well, with trying to figure out all the differences with the towns and such. And so it was a lot of hard work. We basically took our policies and procedures that we had in the past, set them aside, and started right from scratch. And we had a lot of support from the town board and the public safety committee, which helped us. At the very end, we were able to hire a part-time consultant, Kevin Hall from Webster. He's a retired sergeant from Webster Police Department that has he's also a state assessor with accreditation, and he helped us the last, I would say, month and a half, just as a part-time to get us up and over that hump. And I'm real proud of our department because it was a lot of change that had to come quickly. Our evidence room and all sorts of processing was just had to be overhauled, and I'm proud of where we are today, and now we can show everybody that we're essentially doing the things that we're supposed to be doing as long as we abide by our policies. We had to meet 133 standards, but we put into place 236 policies.
Wow.
Since the start of this, that gives direction to our officers on how to proceed on a day-to-day basis. So it's very helpful to them. It's very helpful for us and myself as a chief to direct our department in doing the right things.
And by the way, if I was reading correctly, the background before you gentlemen showed up this morning, there's a lot of people that came to town to check to see if you guys had made the grade, right?
Absolutely.
It wasn't like you had one person say, "Yep, you guys are in."
No,
You had various
it was
elements.
a 3-day process that they were on site. 3 different
Wow.
members of the accreditation team came in for 3 days
Wow.
and picked through every portion of these 133 standards, physically checking, interviewing people, so it's and then they recommend to the accreditation council. So then in September we got to go down and they officially granted us New York State accreditation status.
Now, is this something that you need to renew every few years, or is this like once you get the stamp, you're in?
Every 5 years we have to go through an on-site assessment.
So they send those guys back, and they.
It might not be the same people,
Right.
probably wouldn't be, but yeah, every 5 years. So every year we have to keep up with this process too. It's not like in 5 years we hurry up and play catch up.
Right.
We have to show compliance for each year of the 5 years. So every single year we have to almost stay up with it, and then at the end of the 5 years they come in and make sure that we've been doing everything as instructed for the last 5 years.
It's an everyday process.
Right.
Every day that I'm in the office, there's something that I'm doing with accreditation. The officers in the department now, actually, they bust on me a little bit because I'm always looking for things that need to go into folders. If they
Right.
find a piece of paper, they'll start laughing and say, "Oh, you need this for accreditation?" So, it's actually everybody's on board, so it makes you feel good that what you're doing is the right thing. So.
Well, I'm mindful of the fact I left Gould's Pumps. I retired 7 years ago, having been there almost 44 years, the only full-time job I ever had to have, thank God. But, Tim, I remember, and Stu, I remember ISO 9001, a standard that we still have, and that not only the same accreditation, but it was to take every department, which, as you know, at Gould's, ITT, is huge.
Right.
And everything you did, you had to document, flowcharts, diagrams, data points, and the auditor would come once a year to see that if everything you say is in this booklet with all the charts, that you do a certain thing. When I was in charge of customer service, how you enter an order, how you do this, how you do that, purchasing, etc. And it's to remind me of that. So they check it every single year.
Basically,
Yeah.
that's accreditation as well.
Yep.
If you have a domestic or if you have a bomb threat or something
Right.
like that, there's a policy for that.
Yep.
The officers are actually now trained to go to their computers in the cars, pull that policy up, check it to see when they have to call the chief or notify the supervisor or what the procedures are to move forward. So
So it's-
one thing back in
yeah.
the beginning when the chief was talking about the accreditation, we were one of the first in New York State to actually put our accreditation on electronic and send it out to, I believe it was around 10 or maybe a little bit more people throughout the state to electronically do a mock assessment of our policies before the actual team came in. When the team leader came in, which is the chief of the University of Buffalo, he was prepared to sign off on almost 50 policies just walking in the door because he'd already reviewed them on electronic.
Tim, were you surprised only 20% have got the accreditation?
I was, but when I in the beginning I was wondering why
Wow, now you know.
people don't have this. But
Now we know.
yeah, after working
Yeah.
7 days
Yeah.
a week on at home and
Yeah.
at the office, I would take stuff home on my computer
Sure.
constantly working on it. Then I'd email it to the chief for approval, and
Yeah.
it was very painstaking. It was
But you got to the finish line.
absolutely.
I truly feel that every police department in New York State should go through this process. It just makes you that much better.
Oh, sure.
I really believe that.
We're going to get back to Stu and to Tim in a minute, but it would not be a show for the Weber this week if we didn't talk about a couple of sports topics. I know these gentlemen on the couch, too, follow the world of sports. If you missed it, Peyton Manning, of course, now a career touchdown thrower of all time, beating Brett Favre. A big game last night against San Fran as the Broncos easily won 42-17. It's kind of weird, Jim, too. Peyton Manning and to Stu and to Tim, a couple years ago, they weren't even sure he was ever going to play football again.
Yeah, now he
Pretty
could,
amazing.
You know, he could.
Peyton Manning.
Right.
Yeah, he's what, 40, 39, 40 years old.
Pretty
something like
scary.
And he's at 509. Now the
Oh.
question is, you think he'll throw 600 before he hangs
I
it
don't
up? Because
know.
I think he might. I mean, he's in a good situation, and he's his health is good. He
Yeah.
doesn't take many hits
But
in
it was
a game.
scary when he got hurt and they had the fusion in the neck, a couple of those operations. And I kept saying to my wife, there's no way he's ever going to play football, let
Right.
alone NFL
You
football.
wouldn't think so.
But
yeah.
man, oh man, you know, give kudos to that guy. So he is the all-time touchdown thrower of all time in the NFL, having bested Brett Favre. By the way, World Series, you know, I'm old enough to remember Kansas City, baby. Kansas City, here we come. How about it? 29 years since they were in the big dance. I know some Giant fans probably are checking me out this morning, but I'm pulling for KC. I think it'd be a great story.
Yeah.
I would love to see Kansas City win the World Series. Gentlemen, got an opinion on that, or do you like Kansas City, or do you like the Giants?
I would rather have seen the Yankees in there.
They got their own issues. Hey, A-Rod's coming back. Jeez, I
You know,
can't-
the problem I have with
Yeah.
it is now there's the World Series, is it finally going to be on like ESPN or Fox and not have to go and search for these games on channel like 511, the MLB Network,
Right.
TBS? I think that's the one thing that the
Yep.
Major League Baseball
Right.
is failing at.
Yep.
It's, you know,
You're
there's
right.
been more than once where I wanted to turn on the game and it took me 10, 15 minutes to
Find out
find
what
it.
station. Fox has the coverage.
So there you go.
right.
Finally, now that's the World Series.
Go
will be
go
easy
to that
find.
little B button and then your search remote there.
Ah,
type it
yeah,
in.
yeah.
I use it all the time.
I
I know
do
it's,
too.
a lot of people don't know you can do that, but
By the way, Jimmy's happy being an SU grad, winning against Wake Forest, trailing 7-0, coming back, scoring 30 unanswered. The Orangemen now with 3 victories have to get 6 to become bowl eligible. Next game up this weekend in Clemson. Jimbo, you got concerns about the Clemson game? Yeah, you never know.
it's down in Clemson.
Yeah, I know.
But they've had some injuries. Their quarterback's out,
Right.
and you know what? We got a freshman quarterback
Yep.
that for the next 4 years is going to be thrown to a freshman wide receiver,
Yep.
Steve Ismail.
Yep.
And that's what's exciting to me. It's been a long time, and nothing against Terrell Hunt, who
Yep.
knows what happens when he comes back. But
Right.
it's been a long time since Syracuse has had a premier wide receiver guy. Now he's just a freshman, so by next year and the year after, for 4 years, we should be seeing this kid, Steve Ismail,
Yep.
score touchdowns, catch long bombs from A.J. Long, who's also a freshman. So the future is bright, and as far as this year goes, if we could somehow win that Clemson game, we're back on the roll to go into a bowl. But
Exactly.
even if we lose it, I still think that we can run the table going forward after that
Right.
game.
They got Carolina State, Duke coming to the Dome. Then they have their last 2 games on the road, Pittsburgh, Boston College. Be interesting. And by the way, one of the classic football games, a lot of build-up on these games, as Stu and Tim certainly know, and myself and Jimmy know, Notre Dame, Florida State. What a great game that was. I mean, that was phenomenal. And, oh, by the way, I know Charlie Schaefer, our attorney in town, big Notre Dame grad, and I know Johnny Capacci and a few others who Tim know. Certainly, I think the call was a correct call. I think there was offensive pass interference with 5 seconds to go. Notre Dame scores what you thought was the winning score. Big upset. Oh, hold on, flag. And I looked at the play about 700 times over the weekend, Jimmy. It appeared to be the correct call. It appeared to be offensive pass interference.
It's one of those calls that by
Yeah.
the book is the correct call,
Yep.
but if they didn't
Oh, they
call
call
it or throw a whistle, nobody would have noticed.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame would have won.
Yep.
But neither Notre Dame or Florida State is
Yep.
the best team in the country.
True.
They're not even top 5 if you ask me. So
Yep.
in the end, I don't think it's going to be too significant in determining who wins the national championship, because I think if Notre Dame or Florida State played one of those teams from the SEC West in the playoffs,
Right.
that they'd get blown out. Then Florida State and Notre Dame, both overrated.
And by the way, before we go back to Stu and to Tim for some closing comments, don't forget, folks, we've done a lot of broadcasts in my career, doing a lot of basketball and football games. Never done a roller derby. That's coming up this Saturday. We're going to be in Lyons, Tim and Stu's favorite town. It's where I was born, 1945, baby. Finger Lakes Lunatics, yes! Finally, we're going to get a live broadcast. These guys are excited. I know they're probably going to leave their schedules to make sure they watch it. Hey, Finger Lakes Lunatics taking on the Parlor City Chicks. I mean,
Tricks.
What is it? Tricks.
Tricks.
Chicks, tricks. But whatever. We're going to be broadcasting that live. You can't believe it. Usually people say, hey, I have some idea what I'm doing when a basketball broadcast or football, because I've done a lot of them. But you know what? This is new to me, too. So thank God we have an injured player. I don't feel bad she's injured, but she's going to join our broadcast table just to give us the terminology. That should be fun.
You, Dave Barnick, and
Dave Barnick.
Silver Assassin.
Yes, Jeremy Hunt. Jason
on
Hunt
the
will be there
camera.
with the cameras.
Chris
Marquardt
Marquardt
will be
producing.
directing and producing the broadcast. So if you're bored on Saturday night, check us out on Finger Lakes One live podcast. We'll be from Lyons, New York. That should be a lot of fun. And Jimmy announced on the website that we'll be coming out soon with our 2014-15 high school basketball. We're opening up the end of November, I believe, a doubleheader at the New York Chiropractic
I can tell you what
College.
our first
Two
games are going to be. They're going to be at NYCC in Seneca Falls.
Yep.
It's going to be Lions against Southern Cuga, followed by Minders against South Seneca. So
Perfect.
a doubleheader to kick off the season on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And then we're probably going to do another 14 games after that. So it should be a full winter of high school basketball in Finger Lakes 1.
And by the way, a lot of people love these broadcasts because if you're living out in Iowa or out in Michigan or out in California, just click on Finger Lakes 1 on the internet. Off you go. Well, let's go back to our gentlemen here that were nice enough to carve out 30 minutes to join us this morning. Stu, as we wrap up the Chief of Police of the town of Seneca Falls, I know you'll want to give kudos to your department. You guys have done, and ladies, have done an exceptional job. And you have any closing comments? I know that we appreciate the effort that your force does, and certainly keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. Obviously, I'm a little biased with this, but I
Sure
think that we're doing the best police work we've ever done in my career, I feel. And I'm very proud of my department members and of stepping up and taking on this challenge and working extremely hard at providing what I think is the best police service we've ever provided. So we're going to continue to do that. I still strive every day to make our department better and better, get the equipment and everything that officers need on the road to do their job, allow them to do the investigations, give them time, and provide the service that the residents of Seneca Falls deserve.
And Tim, of course, you and your colleagues certainly can respect that. Trying to do the best job you can day in and day out.
Absolutely. Along with accreditation, I mean, the department's changed tremendously, equipment-wise, training-wise. It's definitely made us a better police department all the way around.
Well, keep up the good work. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Stu Peenstra, the Chief of Police of the town of Seneca Falls, along with longtime friend Tim Snyder, join us this morning on the Weber Show. We look forward to having you continue to check us out every Monday morning. And if you don't check us out live, you can check us out later on when the thing gets put up by Jim. Next week, Gary Schlegel, the owner of the McGee Diner, Pro Casino. Will Lago come to the area? Decisions should be coming soon, maybe after the elections. Will it happen? Gary Schlegel wants it to happen. We had a faction on a few weeks ago on the show that were anti-casino. Now we have Gary talking about Pro Casino. And then, of course, he'll be on next week. Then the following week, we have Kevin and Ellen Reeder, the owners of the Belhurst Castle. Really a spectacular place in Geneva, New York. I've had personal doings, having many events there over my lifetime. They'll be in talking about what it's like to own a castle. And then, of course, the following week we have a special show as well. Kathy Jans Duffy, along with Lorraine Withers, will be in talking about Elizabeth Cady Stanton. What else do we have to say? This is the town of Seneca Falls. She turns 199 November 15th. Pretty impressive, Jimmy, huh? Yeah. And by the way, Jimmy, congratulations to you and your beautiful wife celebrating 11 years of matrimonial bliss.
Yeah, we went to Bambino's in Auburn.
I
and
love
I
that
gotta
place.
tell you, that was an unbelievable meal.
That's
it was
fantastic.
unbelievable. I had a pappardelle with bolognese sauce, and I'm telling you, it was the type of thing that every time I put it in my mouth, I couldn't believe how good it was.
Bambino's, been there, love it.
Yeah, I hadn't been there in about a year, but boy, it's really good. I recommend that.
All right, folks, get your seats all ready, get your cold beer and your chips, and be careful. Don't be driving. We have too much to drink. We got a couple of fine gentlemen on the couch, and their fellow colleagues might be chasing you. So, again, enjoy the World Series, folks. Go Kansas City. Take care, everybody. That's a look at Weber this week. My way.
By becoming a patron of FingerLakes1.com. Visit patreon.com/FL1.
FingerLakes1.com